Everyone knows Goliath, the giant who fell to a shepherd boy and a single stone. But almost no one knows he had brothers. 5 of them, from the same monstrous bloodline, and at least one of them was even bigger than he was. Tonight, we're going deep into a story most Bible teachers never touch: the forgotten giants of Gath, the brothers who swore revenge on King David after Goliath's death, and the 6-fingered, 6-toed colossus that may have been the most terrifying of them all. If you're new here, this is part 2 of our series on the giants of the Bible, so stay to the end. You will not see this coming. When Goliath fell in the valley of Elah, it wasn't the end of the story. It was the beginning of a blood feud. Scripture tells us Goliath belonged to a race of giants called the Rephaim, sometimes rendered Rephaim or Rephate, and that he had brothers of that same monstrous lineage. When word reached them that David had killed Goliath, these giants didn't mourn quietly. They came for the king of Israel, and Israel's own soldiers grew so afraid of losing David to one of these giants that they eventually begged him to stay off the battlefield entirely, so that, in their words, the lamp of Israel would not be extinguished. To understand where these giants came from, we have to go back to the Exodus. When the Israelites left Egypt and entered Canaan, they didn't just encounter rival nations, they encountered giants. Ancient tribes of massive humans already inhabited the land. The Nephilim, the Anakim, and the Rephaim among them. These weren't legendary exaggerations. Deuteronomy describes King Og of Bashan, a ruler so enormous his iron bed had to be custom built to hold him, roughly 15 feet long and 6.5 feet wide. The Rephaim, Og's own people, are named directly in Deuteronomy chapter 2, tied to the region of Bashan, which today spans parts of Jordan and Israel. Numbers chapter 13 adds the Anakim to the picture, a tribe so tall that the Israelite spies sent into Canaan came back terrified, comparing themselves to grasshoppers next to them. Most of these giant tribes didn't vanish quietly either. As Israel advanced under Joshua, many were killed in battle, but not all. Survivors scattered, fleeing into Philistia, into Mesopotamia, and, by some accounts even further, into Africa and beyond. It's part of why flood-era and post-flood giant legends appear across so many ancient cultures worldwide, not just in the biblical text, but in traditions stretching from the Mediterranean to the Americas. Now let's meet the family Goliath left behind. The first brother was Lami. 1 Chronicles chapter 20 tells us he was killed by Elhanan, son of Jair, in a later war against the Philistines. And the detail that stands out is his weapon. His spear shaft is compared to a weaver's beam, the massive wooden bar used on ancient looms. That's not a small object. A spear built on that scale suggests Lami stood close to Goliath's own height, likely somewhere around 10 feet tall. The second brother was Ishbi-Benob. 2 Samuel 21 describes his bronze spearhead alone, weighing close to 300 shekels. By some estimates, 13 to 15 pounds of metal on the tip alone, paired with a massive new sword. This is the giant who actually corners David himself in battle. David, exhausted from prolonged fighting, is nearly killed, saved only when Abishai, one of his loyal commanders, intervenes and strikes Ishbi-Benob down. Given the scale of his weaponry, most estimates place him at 9 to 10 feet tall. The third brother was Saph, sometimes called Sipai, defeated by Sibbecai the Hushathite in another Philistine campaign. Scripture gives us less physical detail here, but based on his lineage and the pattern of the other brothers, Saph was likely comparable to Goliath, somewhere close to 9 or 10 feet. Then there's the strangest entry in the record, a fourth giant, also named Goliath. Not Goliath of Gath, the one David killed. This is a second giant carrying the exact same name, described in 2 Samuel 21 as Goliath the Gittite. Like Lami, his spear shaft is compared to a weaver's beam. Whether this was a family name passed down, a title tied to status among the Rephaim, or simple coincidence, Scripture doesn't say, but it's one of the most overlooked oddities in the entire giant narrative. And finally, the fifth brother, the one Scripture never even bothers to name because his body alone was enough to make the point. 2 Samuel 21 verse 20 describes a giant of Gath with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot, 24 digits in total. No name, no individual battle story attached to him specifically beyond being struck down alongside the others. Just a physical anomaly so striking that it was the one detail worth preserving. Many researchers consider him the largest of all 5 brothers, potentially taller than Goliath himself. 5 brothers, 1 bloodline, all eventually destroyed by David's mightiest warriors in the wars that followed Goliath's death. A quiet but decisive end to one of the last strongholds of the giant race in Philistine territory. So which of these 5 stood out to you the most? Lami and his weaver's beam spear, Ishbi-Benob nearly killing David himself, or the nameless 6-fingered giant of Gath? Tell me in the comments. And if you want part 3, because there's still more buried in this bloodline, like this video and subscribe so you don't miss it.